Hi, my name is Kim and I am the Manager of Financial and Corporate Planning at Frankston City Council. Today I am presenting how Council builds its budget. Councillors are keen to engage with the community on this subject, as at times the budget process and the details of the budget document can be complex. At the outset, it is important to highlight that Council is a break-even organisation. It does not make a profit. In other words, all cash income is spent or allocated to providing services and building infrastructure for the community each year. There is often a misconception that when the income statement shows a surplus, that this is a profit. This is incorrect. The operating surplus is required to deliver capital expenditure. If Council does not have an operating surplus, then over time, Council's ability to deliver community infrastructure is limited, and Council would become financially unsustainable. Under the Local Government Act, Council is required to prepare and adopt an annual budget for each financial year. The budget includes information about the rates and charges to be levied, the capital works program to be undertaken, the staffing resources required and other financial information. The budget process starts in November-December, where assumptions for the next 5 years are updated to Council's long-term financial plan. Financial projections for the 5 years are set based on market conditions, labour costs based on the enterprise agreement, and the rate cap set by the Minister. The first year of this long-term financial plan is then used as the base budget. During January and February, Council officers review their base budget and adjust figures influenced by changes in regulations, service levels, or capital funding requirements. Executive management conduct a robust analysis of the budgets to ensure that Council is providing value for money and levels of service required by the community within the scarce resources available. Over the past 5 years, Council has made a concerted effort to become efficient and introducing initiatives to reduce costs and maximise income. Councillors are involved in a number of briefings to review the draft budget. A proposed budget is prepared in accordance with the Act and submitted to Council in May for approval in principle. Council then makes the budget available to the public for review via its website or copies that are available at Council service centres. The community can make a submission on any proposal contained in the budget, and these submissions are considered before adoption. The final step is for Council to adopt the budget. Adopting the budget prior to 30th of June is a legislative requirement and ensures that the organisation can commence the new year with strategic direction. Council has little autonomy to increase its revenue and has to work within limited resources to deliver services and build infrastructure. Over 60% of Council's income is received from rates and charges. The increase of this income source is controlled by the Victorian Government with the introduction of rate capping. Also, a large part of Council's income is operating grants, capital grants and statutory fees, which are again set by other levels of government and often do not reflect the true cost to provide the services and infrastructure that the funding is intended. User fees and charges are set by Council and are reviewed annually to ensure that costs to deliver the services are covered unless a Council decision has been made to subsidise the charge to ensure affordability for the community. Examples of user fees and charges are seasonal tickets for the Centenary Park Golf Course, fees for disposing items at the recycling centre, boat launching fees, hall hire and many others. This graph essentially shows Council's average rates per assessment compared to 14 other eastern councils. The rates per assessment at Frankston City Council is sitting very close to the average of all councils, and that won't change from 2015-16 onwards, as all councils are constrained by the rate cap, and the results will continue to be quite similar. Of the rates and charges income, over 80% is received from residential properties, which includes houses and units. This is unlike some councils who have a large section of their rates being sourced from commercial and industrial properties. A large component of council's expenditure is employee costs. Many council services are delivered through our workforce, and these costs increase through the enterprise bargaining agreement, which is set outside of the budget process. For council to reduce employee costs would mean a reduction in services to the community. Materials and services are also a large part of council's costs, which include contracts, again agreed upon outside of the budget process. Examples of these contracts are council's waste services and facilities maintenance. Again, council has little ability to reduce these costs during the budget process. Most of these costs are not linked to CPI increases. Usually they can be driven by other cost increases, such as the construction index or fuel costs. Utility costs such as electricity, gas and water continue to escalate well above CPI, which puts additional pressure on balancing the budget. Depreciation and amortisation in this graph is a book entry, and that is based on accounting standards. Over the past 5 years, council has worked hard to reduce its expenditure, looking for efficiencies and identifying ways of living within its means. Capital works is a large part of council's budget process and is essentially building and renewing council's assets and facilities. Asset renewal is an important component of our capital works program that ensures existing community assets are renewed and replaced as they reach the end of their useful lives. Capital projects are prioritised based on an asset management framework. This graph highlights that renewal expenditure is considerable to ensure that the assets remain at the required standard fit for purpose. Discretionary funds are used to provide upgrades and new capital projects. Examples are the Park Aquatic Facility and the Recycling Centre. The Capital Works program is funded largely by rates income and ultimately council's operating surplus result. Therefore, it is important to continue to minimise costs and maximise income so that a significant capital program can be delivered. Rate capping has limited our ability to deliver an extensive capital program. Grants received from the government are also used to fund capital projects. Total budget expenditure is in excess of $200 million, and typically 70% is operating in nature and 30% is spent on the capital program. A different way of looking at how council spends its money is to view how each $100 expense is split across all services and capital works. For example, during 2018-2019, council spent $32.41 out of each $100 on its capital works program. Similarly, $6.02 of each $100 was spent on aged services, and so on. By the end of 2018-2019, council will have $28 million in loan borrowings. 2 years ago, this figure was $37 million. Council is conscious of keeping its loan borrowings to a minimum. However, borrowings are needed to fund major capital works such as the Park Aquatic Facility and the Frankston Recycling Centre. Loans were also used to fund the landfill liability some years ago and the superannuation defined benefit call. Council loans to rates ratio is less than half of the maximum prudential ratio limit of 60% set by the Victorian Government, which means Council is in a good position. Putting this in perspective, this can be compared to a guaranteed household income of $100,000 and having an outstanding mortgage of $28,000. Most of you would be comfortable to manage this financial position, and this is the current situation of Council in terms of its borrowings. So what does all this mean? At the end of the day, Council strives to deliver services, build infrastructure and renew its assets. But most importantly, Council needs to remain and continue to be a financially sustainable organisation. You can see from this graph that over the past few years, Council has come a long way to ensure that its underlying operating result has shifted from a deficit to a surplus. It must be emphasised again that this surplus is not a profit. It is a surplus to deliver capital expenditure that the community will benefit from. Council has rating stability for the community, but its financial sustainability diminishes in the long term, which means essentially that funding of capital works will also reduce over time. This is due to the impact of rate capping. Had we not had this introduced, Council's surplus would have been consistent in future years and would have been in a better position to provide more infrastructure and services to the community. Rate capping will be with Victorian councils for a long time, and therefore it will continue to challenge Council's financial sustainability in years to come. Council will also continue to face financial challenges in the future and ultimately will need to make hard decisions in order to live within its means. So in summary today, I've highlighted the process that Council follows in building its budget. I've discussed the key components of Council's budget and also provided some insights into the challenges that Council may face in the future. I hope you have found this presentation helpful and look forward to your participation during the submissions process. Thank you.